Please join us every week for a new episode of Understanding the Human Condition with Dr. James Flowers. Dr. Flowers and his most admired mentors, respected colleagues, and VIP guests will share valuable insight into underlying health causes, conditions, and issues. These in-depth yet approachable episodes are a great resource for both private individuals and industry professionals. Our esteemed host, Dr. James Flowers, is one of the most recognized and respected names in the field of chronic pain, mental health, and substance use disorders, both nationally and internationally. Dr. Flowers is the founder of J. Flowers Health Institute, located in Houston, Texas. For more information about J. Flowers Health Institute and its concierge services, go to jflowershealth.com or dial 713-783-6655. And be sure to mention this podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Understanding the Human Condition. Dr. Flowers is out today, so we have our Chief Experience Officer, Shay Butts, joining us in the studio. Hi, Shay.
Thank you, Robin. I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks for pitching in.
You bet. Anytime.
So you want to announce the VIP guest that we have today?
I would love to. So I would like to introduce our trauma and equine therapist, Melanie Flint. Melanie is a wonderful clinician, and I've known her for a long time, so I'm very excited to be able to co-host the podcast for her today.
Today, we're going to share the benefits of equine therapy for people struggling with addictions and mental illness. You will also learn several life skills that a horse can teach better than a human through equine therapy. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Melanie Flint, for those who don't know already. Melanie Flint serves as the founder and clinical director of JEM Wellness and Counseling in Houston, Texas. She's a licensed clinical social worker, certified group psychotherapist, and equine-assisted psychotherapist with 16 years of experience treating individuals, couples, families, and groups, and speaking to organizations nationwide. Melanie specializes in anxiety disorders, trauma recovery, and relationships with special interests supporting parents and girls, women, and mothers' empowerment. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So right out of the gate, how do you two know each other?
Oh, well, so many moons ago, I was running a treatment center for young women, and Melanie came on as a therapist and then ultimately came on and took over our equine program that was in existence and developed it into just this really magical place where everybody, including staff, wanted to be in the barn. So
it was magical. Yeah. You know.
So
yeah. The barn was.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
The barn was a place where people who knew about horses seemed to be. People that were afraid of horses stayed away from. And through my time there, I really tried to make it a place of gathering. We did our equine-assisted psychotherapy. We did learning workshops, we did riding lessons, we had a show where our riders could demonstrate what they had learned, and we had music, and we gathered, and it was a really beautiful space, I felt, and everyone really participated.
Did some great work with parents, and we painted horses on Halloween.
We
that
did.
was
We had a
really
parade.
fun.
We had a horse parade.
Yeah, we had a little parade. That was wonderful. So that was good times. Good times.
Yeah.
So, what issues can equine-assisted psychotherapy help specifically?
So, that's a great question. I would say trauma, first and foremost.
Okay.
Relationships as well. Anyone struggling with issues in relationships, whether it's isolation, the relationship with ourselves, relationship with our partner, with our children, with our families, with our friends, so deeper connections, anxiety, depression. We work with a lot of veterans with equine-assisted psychotherapy, so PTSD. I've treated many clients with eating disorders as well. So it's pretty comprehensive. The horses will mirror for us what we are experiencing and how we're showing up, and they will show us through the guidance of the therapist and the equine specialist. It's a team effort, how we can shift in order to deepen our relationships. And it's just really powerful work.
One of the things that I love so much is how effective of a modality it is to add to more traditional talk therapy. And would you talk a little bit about that? Like people maybe that have challenges processing verbally, how can the horses be so powerful as a tool?
Yes, that's a great one. So talk therapy is amazing. I do a lot of my work in this office.
It's pretty.
And part of what, as humans, talking about the human condition, part of what, as humans, that we all share is that when we experience life, that's where so much growth and learning and healing can happen. Hardship as well. So when we're in the office, we talk about it all. We facilitate healing. When we're out in nature with animals and here with equines, we see it in action. So we are walking the walk. We are engaging multisensorily with our healing process. The horses being, of course, the focus in this case. So when we are in front of another being, a 1,200-pound being that just in their sheer size, there's meaning there,
Right.
different meaning for each person. In their sensitivities, being prey animals, they bring with them a multitude of sensitivities that we as predators don't have. We can socialize. Some of us come innately with many different areas of connection around this. The horses come with sensitivity for sound, energy, feel, sight, all these different areas that when we engage with them and we interact with them, we touch them, we groom them, we connect with them. It's through that experience that a lot of the growth can happen. In addition, so as an adjunct therapy, lots of times we'll have office work and then do 4 sessions on the ranch, or once a month we'll meet out there, just as an adjunct that helps conceptualize that experience, bring the concept into the dome of reality, and then the clients bring that into their lives and see it play out.
That's great. We have really enjoyed having you working with our clients at J Flowers, and they have very much enjoyed it as well. Any stories that shall remain nameless, but any experiences that you can share with us that might just be sort of fun to put things in context?
Sure. There's so many. There's some that I've experienced with individuals and some with families. So I'll share a family experience. So sometimes we will take, relevant areas of conflict or challenge or struggle that someone's experiencing, and we'll facilitate an activity in a round pen or an arena. We'll have 1 or 2 horses, and we will ask the client to say, let's say if they're having struggles with boundaries, we'll have some tools in the arena and we'll say, create your bedroom or your office, depending on who they are. So they'll take some tools like cones or, those swim noodles that are soft, but they're colorful and long. We'll ask them to create a space for themselves. And then we'll have them go in the space and have them protect that space. In other words, keep your boundary.
Right.
And the horses can become metaphors for life, or what family members, crossing our boundaries, coming into our space. How do we reinforce? So I have had families come out, and I might have them recreate who they are in the family. So they'll go into different areas of an arena, and they might put themselves in their room, or they might, for a mother, for example, she might hold multiple tools in her hands and feel like, tell us, I'm always juggling things, so I'm going to hold all these things. And then we'll have them with the horses kind of just be themselves. And I have seen families go through this process of realizing how often they cross boundaries. As parents, how considering with empathy their children's experience never crossed their minds, because we got to go, we got to do things. We're, we talk a lot about behavior in our culture. So to use a specific example, I had a family come out who I had them set up their space, their home. and the horses were walking through. Now, in this specific case, we had buckets of feed out there because boundaries were a huge issue. And if you know animal food, there's no boundaries.
Right.
So we had buckets of feed placed throughout their setup, their home. And as the horses would come through, we would see how each of them reinforced their boundaries, not only with the horses, but with each other, because one family member would push their horse into the other person's space, or they would, one person went around and collected all the feed buckets for themselves and wanted all the attention. So there was a big issue with boundaries there. So we saw these things play out, and then we could go back and process and talk about what they noticed out there. So the power in these sessions is about what the client experiences. It's not as much hardly what I think is happening, it's what they experience. So they might come out and say, that brown horse was just like Dad. Never knocks, comes in all the time, doesn't respect my space. Well, Dad's over there going, I wasn't even, I was all the way over here. So they get to talk about the metaphors that the horses bring up, the behavior that goes on within the family. And then we get to have our talk therapy time, or our processing time, and help them kind of heal and restructure and move into other forms of therapy to help support the relationships. So that's one example. I had another, I can go on.
Tell another, I want to hear another.
Yeah.
Sure. I had a session with some veterans, and there was a group of them out there, and a lot of trauma, also relationship issues were coming up. And we had some full-size horses and some mini horses with us. And so one adult male veteran who was with us kind of was standing away from the rest of the group and said to me, I don't want to really be with any of these horses. They're just, I don't want to be out here. So he came out a couple of times and really didn't participate much. Through some comments and processing, we came to realize that relationships were very, very difficult for him. He had pretty much isolated himself from most people after returning from his deployment. And then the third time he came out, same offering of tools and supplies were out there for them to use during part of the session. And he ended up picking up a grooming bucket and going over and just being drawn to this one rather large horse. And he went over and started grooming this horse and spent the whole rest of the session with this horse.
Aww.
And by the end of it, he was very emotional. And he came back to the circle and didn't say much, but I received a call later. And this is the beauty of so much of our work, is that we might bring up a lot in our sessions. The work really happens after the realization, the healing, the conversation. So he called me and he said, I realized I want so much more in my life. I just didn't think I was worthy of it. I didn't think I was allowed because of everything he had experienced. Wow. So it unlocked his heart, it unlocked his life, and he came back again and again and deepened those relationships. So it's very powerful.
That's great.
You know what I found fascinating was that you can also help those with spinal cord injuries and paralysis and MS, right?
Yes, we can. It's a little bit different process, because being with the horses, it can be physical, just the sheer walking. It is all groundwork though. There's no riding involved. In some modalities there can be, but for the majority of our work, it is all on the ground. So as long as we can get them out there with support, so if they have companions or caregivers, that's one of the reasons we have a team. So I'm the mental health focused person, I'm the people focused person. And then the other part of my team is my equine specialist, who focuses more on horse behavior and what's happening there. And then of course the horses complete our team. So if we can get them out there, then we can, of course, keep the space safe. That's our top priority, and allow them the same process as someone who isn't in a wheelchair.
I also was reading that the autism community is a large portion of those who use equine therapy. Is that true?
It is. It can be, for sure. So different programs will offer the different modalities to help treat different populations. That can be very true because with folks on the autistic spectrum, there can be a difficulty with connection and relationships and empathy and just looking for those social cues. So it's just a beautiful wealth of experience that can happen out there to deepen awareness and relationships for them.
I could see how this would really benefit a nonverbal person. Wow.
Mm-hmm. What's really interesting, and Melanie, I know you can speak to this, but when a person first would go, at least the way we facilitated when we did this together, the horse will either select you or not. I don't think that's the right way to say it exactly. But the horses really sort of, just gravitate to different people. And oftentimes, Melanie would point out things to me like, this horse is really like this girl, hard-headed and,
how funny.
And doesn't behave.
So they choose their like-minded partners, huh?
But it creates an environment for some really interesting work to happen because there's this push-pull kind of, as they create their own relationship together. Am I saying that right?
Very true. Yeah, Shay, we saw this stuff happen where, let's say we were at a treatment facility that had all female. So we had one of the adult women out there. She really struggled with boundaries. She had some early life trauma, very difficult time with boundaries. And so the horse who was drawn to her liked to push boundaries, didn't like rules. He could identify someone who didn't like or know how to have boundaries, and he went straight to her. And he bullied her a little bit. I'm thinking of one person in particular. He bullied her a bit, and really a lot of wonderful work happened around boundaries for her. Yeah, she got pushed around a little bit. And it forced her to say, wait a minute, I don't like that, or that isn't something that works for me. Yeah. And then, of course, we took it back to the office, or the barn office, as it were, and worked on those things.
Yeah.
And how did you get into this field? I'm curious.
Oh, well, I got the horse bug when I was a kid. I fell in love with horses and rode a little bit. And through my life was around them as often as possible. In graduate school, I had an internship by choice that it said the recovery center had horses. So I loved that idea, and I went out there, and they were doing the work out there. And I was introduced to it through someone who's been in this work for decades, and she was very, very pregnant. And so she said, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm going to be on this side of the arena. You go on in and I'll walk you through it. And she taught me that way. And so I started facilitating with her support. And then when I went through my career a little more, I realized I definitely wanted to utilize this modality. And I went, when I was working with Shay, became fully certified. And now here we are. Just can't get away from it.
Yeah, it was just such a pleasure to get to know you way back then, and just an extreme pleasure to get to bring you into what we're doing at J Flowers. And, our program consists of a lot of different things, but, people come in for comprehensive diagnostic evaluations first. And sometimes we'll identify trauma or, those eating disorders, all those things that you mentioned that do benefit so greatly from equine assisted therapy being a part of what they do. And so since we've incorporated the equine piece into our wellness program, I just think it's added a richness, it's added a diversity. It's not something that people expect since we're right in the middle of,
They love it.
of the city, but it's a nice little break from the hubbub, right? From the hustle and bustle and from traditional talk therapy, but just the groups and the offerings that you have been able to offer, I think it's such a bonus for us. It just continues to enrich the breadth of things that we offer at J Flowers, and these experienced clinicians that work with us. I'm honored to have you be a part of that team of just world-renowned clinicians. So
thank you, Shay. I will tell you, working with you guys has been so wonderful. Your patients come out, we have them out on Fridays, and they get to sometimes they finish their programming for the day with us, and sometimes they have one last thing to do. They'll come out and they will start to breathe differently. Just being out there, they share with us all how wonderful it is to have this different experience of treatment.
Right.
And it surprises them all the time. Some of them remember and revive their child. They come out and they play, and we'll do different things with the horses, and they get to just have some quiet too. We meet them where they are, and we take them at their pace. And I will say your patients have responded beautifully to the work. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been a joy.
Oh, you bet. It's again, likewise. It's funny because our client base is so diverse. You know, we work with adolescents and young children, all the way up to 70, 80-year-old people. And so I know that when they come out for groups, they're grouped in age-appropriate groups. But it's really been neat to see, because it isn't something that's just for your wayward teenager. It's also for your wayward elderly father who's a little cranky and cantankerous. So it works for both. So it's really been nice. I'd love to actually get our team out sometime and do some stuff.
I would love that.
Great.
That's in the works.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love to have you guys out.
I was even thinking like some sort of a provider event or something that we can incorporate that, and maybe yoga.
I really just want to see you out there.
Yoga with horses
some
is
boots
fantastic.
And some horse poop. It'd be great. We could have Robin muck some stalls.
Maybe not that part.
Cake poop all the time out there.
It's so
but
healing.
I've got some cute boots. I do. And a cute hat.
Hey, I mucked a few stalls. I actually enjoyed it,
Yeah. Would you call it mucking?
Mucking.
Mucking.
It's poop cleaning.
I'm not poop patrol. Thank you. Sorry.
I know we probably are going to have to go soon, but I do think there's some value in explaining to our guests or our viewers today just what the benefit of just some of the grooming of the horses, and how does that work in the process? Because sometimes our clients will ask, I just pet a horse, or I just brushed a horse, then I don't understand, But can you talk about that a little bit? Because the process really is this series of engagements, right?
It is. So we will start with, of course, we have all the patient information. We know what they're going through, what they're working on before they come out. We often will start with a simple observation. So we'll get all our boots on and we'll go out to the pasture arena, and we will observe the herd. Horses are sentient beings. They're herd animals. They have feelings. They experience relationships in a deep way. And so we'll observe the herd, and we'll see, some will say, well, that one's by herself, or they're all clumped together, or they're, someone just pushed someone else around, or why they bite that one. And we'll kind of just observe and see what their story is, what's coming up for them around their story for the horse. Then we will move into connection. We might say something very general, like, well, go make a horse friend, go connect with a horse. And we'll have those tools, those grooming buckets and different things out there, and we'll let them know anything out here is for you to use. And oftentimes they will go to the bucket and pick up a myriad of, grooming tools. And the benefit of grooming, it's a way of connection. It's a way of offering service to the horse, connection with the horse. It's an introduction. It's saying, I'm here, you're there, I'd like to connect with you. And we talk about asking consent for connection, asking for that connection, asking to be close. And what are the signs and signals that the other or the horse gives us that lets us know it's okay, yes, I don't really mind, or absolutely not. So we're working on that. My light just went out. We're working on that relationship and those cues while we are going through the simple process of, for example, grooming.
Right.
Yeah.
How does the horse move when we do a certain thing? How do we reconnect? Is that okay with them?
Mm-hmm.
Different cues. And social cues, relationships, deepening relationships, it's all part of even the simple task of observation, connection, and grooming is one of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
That reminds me of when you brought up the autism thing, just being able to experience that and just learning how to ask, for permission, when sometimes their boundaries are not great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Because we've had
We
a
had
lot.
one.
Did you hear that?
did I hear a horse? Well, yeehaw, giddy up, let's go.
Sorry, where were we?
I don't know.
One more client-patient example.
Oh,
if you
perfect.
guys,
Yeah, we
we've
love
had,
stories.
Speaking of clients that different age groups. So we had a client come out who was really struggling with self-harming and isolation and depression. And she came out, and when I tell you guys her intuition and connection capability in action with those horses, it was unbelievable. It was so striking. And I immediately called after her session and let her therapist know she has got to come back out here because she just blossomed. We also had a much older male client come out who has a high-powered career, very successful, and had shared with us, I have difficulty connecting with relationships. And we saw him kind of work in the room out there with the horses. One day he went out and greeted every single horse and came out and he's like, that was cool, I'm done. He came out a few times, and by the end of his third session, he said, I want my family to be glad when I open the door and come home at night. I want to deepen my relationships. I want things to be different. And he saw that through his interactions with working with one horse for a full hour and going through that process of connection. It's really powerful. So it doesn't have to be just for young female,
Yeah.
absolutely with different populations.
I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about the experience with equine. They had just had their first experience, and they said, well, I don't really know that I'll use this again. And I said, our goal with you and our wellness program, after we've made all these great recommendations based on your evaluation, is to give you all the tools that we can possibly stuff into your toolbox. And then when you leave, you choose those things. And so if in your area you want an equine therapist, you'd like to continue because that was something that felt good, or if you'd like to continue music therapy or art therapy or yoga or whatever it is, besides just that talk therapy, those are the pieces that help you create new life and new balance and open your mind to new things. So at that point, the client was a little more excited, trying again. I need to understand this. I'm not going to do this. And I said, well, let's see if you're going to do it or not again. So
it's one of the tools.
What's the beautiful thing about J. Flowers Health is everyone thinks outside of the box.
Yeah.
They really do.
That's why I'm here. I don't like the box.
No.
So hence the experience piece.
Well, we're running out of time, and so I just wanted to ask Melanie, what does understanding the human condition mean to you? What are your thoughts on that?
On what? I'm so
Understanding
sorry.
the human condition.
And the human condition, as I see it, really comes down to connection, making mistakes, healing, ownership. That is universal. Doesn't matter where we come from, how old we are all managing those things. Authenticity.
Yeah.
And our work in the office, whether we're working with adults, kids, trauma, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, or with the horses, we are honing in on these areas. We are normalizing the stuff that is human, and we are helping them heal through the parts of that is in their power.
Right.
We all have everything we need to lead healthy, happy, well, full lives. So as I see it, we're just facilitating our clients in realizing that. And that's something we share as humans. So
Yeah.
I like that you asked that, because it is very true.
Well, I hear Dr. Flowers say that all the time. He doesn't just want them to walk around and survive. He wants them to live and thrive in life, right?
Yeah, and they don't know how to do that when they get here. And I think it's all a process of learning for all of us. So to normalize mental health and wellness a little bit, it's okay. It's okay. We all have those things that we need to work on, because we've all got those things, right? They're just little different degrees. Melanie, thank you so much for being on with us today. If somebody who's watching wants to...
You did it.
Well. If someone who is watching would like to understand the voiceover of the neighing, or get in touch with you, Melanie, how could they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
They can go to gemwellnesscenter.com, JEM, wellnesscenter.com, or they can reach out. Our number is 832-560-9698.
Thank you.
They
Thank
can
you
find us.
again. And to our audience, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with us. I'd like to remind everyone watching or listening that there's numerous platforms that you can find us: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Please share this episode on social media or with anyone else that you think we can help. And if you, for more information about J Flowers Health, it's jflowershealth.com, 713-783-6655.
Tongue twister.
It was.
Yeah. We also just want to remind you that a clear diagnosis is the key to the most effective treatment possible. So we thank you for joining us on The Human Condition.
Thank you. And thank you, Melanie.
Thank you for having
We'll be out
me.
to see you soon.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope so.
Bye.
Bye.